Today we are talking to the Executive Chairman of Data Communication Limited, Mr. Ganesh Ramalingam. Mr. Ramalingam joined the company in 1998. His foresight and vision have been centered to the success of DCL. He has been one of the major players to attend to the development of ICT sector in Mauritius. He has also been involved in the liberalization of the telecommunication industry in Mauritius. Mr. Ganesh Ramalingam, Executive Chairman of DCL, welcome. In 1998, you joined DCL. As the ICT sector was monopolized and was not easy, you must have gone through many ups and downs. According to you, how ICT sector is faring today compared to those days?
Well, DCL decided to go into this industry in the early days. In 1998, we started the company then, and we were mostly into the ICT sector. Okay, and the ICT sector was a sector which was booming with a lot of interest from the public, and we position ourselves as a provider in the industry. Now, there was a lot of unknown in the industry there because it was only in the early days. We participated in a lot of activities in the telecommunication in those days. And one of our interests was to ensure that there was a liberalization of the market. In fact, according to WTO, there was an agreement Mauritius signed with WTO where the liberalization would have started in 2004. So in fact, it was announced to start as 2003. In 2002, the government decided to liberalize partly, and they liberalized the ISP. There was a lot of interest from a lot of companies. A lot of companies made a request for a license. There was, in those days, I still remember, our 20 to 25 companies made applications for ISP. What was the issues in those days? It was a new market. There was only one operator, which was the incumbent operator. They were the one controlling the market. They had 100% of the customers. Only problem with Mauritius compared to other countries is when the market was liberalized, you would have seen a lot of regulations put in place already. Unfortunately, because the authority was still new then, the regulations were not in place. So what happened? People were given licenses. We were one of the first one to have bought a license. We were in the learning curve also. But obviously, the incumbent operator who knew all the tricks and things that needs to be put in place, and they made life difficult. They find out that it's not going to be financially viable after a period of time. There are two folds to that. First is you go into the market. It's like the forest. You have to make the way through. And second is to put pressure on the government at the same time to put all the regulations in place as it should be. So we decided to go into the market, even though we knew from day one that the financial aspect is not going to be met and the business plan doesn't make sense. So for 2 years we suffered, but at the end of the day, we were quite happy to show that we have been able to get what was required in the market to bring in other ISPs in place.
Having traveled extensively and meeting heads of different companies abroad, what criteria do they look for to collaborate in the ICT sector of Mauritius?
The industry has grown a lot from where it started. I mean, today you've got at least about 4 or 5 ISPs active on the market, and you've got a few ISPs who run more or less on a private basis, right? But public, you've got about 4 or 5 running. And today we can't complain that we have difficulties with the incumbent operator. The incumbent operator do whatever they do, and we are free to do whatever we want to do. Right. So from that point of view, there are not much constraints from regulation point of view. But at the same time, it should be noted that investment in an ISP costs a lot of money. Okay, Now, when it comes to investing in a new ISP, you have to invest a lot, and there are two ways of doing it. Either you go wireless completely, or you do it on cable. So this is one of the why people are not very encouraged to do this, right? Probably one of the difficulties for ISP today from regulation point of view is unbundling. Now, one of the important factors which could encourage the country to become a cyber island and to make things work faster for ISPs and for the public is to unbundle the existing infrastructure. Normally in the authority, wherever you go in the world, right, has the responsibility to ensure that the network is rolled out properly in order to ensure that the customer at the end of the day, right, gets the service. Now in countries where liberalization has taken place, in time unbundling has become a process. Okay, it is a process which takes time. Now, had we had a unbundled situation, you would have seen a lot of ISPs coming into the market with very low investment. They would have been able to democratize internet quickly.
You are faring well with your new products and services offered like Alice. What's your ambition?
We want to grow on the number of services that we do, and we would like to be referenced as a serious company in the ICT sector and providing services to the local community and the international community when it comes to telecommunication and bandwidth. Over and above, as an ISP, we want to take things further. We are developing our wireless technology. We've developed already in Eben. In a couple of weeks, we're going to open up. That will cover nearly 60% of the island and covering most of our business people, about 80% of the business.
Government would like to do ICT sector is like a number 2 in the economic pillar. Do you have any suggestions to fine-tune this development?
Today, ICT sector is contributing around 6.7% of GDP, right? Which is a very good figure compared to a lot of industries today. One thing important is for the government to understand and for the authority to understand is making Mauritius and a Wi-Fi zone is a very good thing. It needs to have the collaboration of all the operators, the government and the authority, etc. Right? But that doesn't mean that the Wi-Fi should be free. Right? There's a difference between providing Wi-Fi connection and to provide Wi-Fi free. Right? Providing Wi-Fi as a connection throughout the island is a good thing, definitely. Right? It needs, and we are part of that program. We will do everything that is possible to make this happen. Okay? But we are not prepared to make it free to everybody because this is part of our business. I mean, if it is free to everybody, who is going to pay us for, right? Unless the government pays us to provide this free of service, then it's not a problem. Because as an ISP, as a telecom operator, we buy capacity. And to buy that capacity, we need to make money out of it.
Mr. Ganesh Ramalingam, Executive Chairman of DCL, thank you very much.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.